So got a little bit of breaking news. Breaking news not only in the lighter weight classes, but in boxing as a whole. As Liu Bin of Jinan, China, fighter who represented China in the 2016 Olympics. He's also a former APB world champion, also a 2012 youth world champion, 23 years of age currently. It looks like he's going to actually be competing for a world title against the WBA Light Flyweight Champion Carlos Canizales on the undercard as one of the co-features, of course, on the undercard to Manny Pacquiao taking on Lucas Matisse for Matisse's WBA Welterweight Championship. Really interesting turn of events. Liu Bin, I have covered him on this channel. I did cover his pretty bad, probably worst decision of the Olympic Games in 2016, robbery against Peter Warui. He handled Warui. Warui's a good fighter, a guy with a pretty extensive amateur background himself. But Liu Bin had truly shown himself to be something of a prodigy. Somebody that kind of came up under the wing, so to speak, or in the aftermath of Zhou Shiming's dominance as an amateur, representing China. And Liu Bin appeared like he was going to be kind of fulfilling the shoes, filling the gloves, so to speak, that Zhou Shiming had left when he turned professional. But Bin, unlike Zhou Shiming, decided to turn pro at a young age, at 22, as opposed to how old was Zhou Shiming when he first turned pro? I think 31, 32, about 10 years older. So, I mean, we really have yet to see, I guess, the true prime of this fighter as opposed to Zhou Shiming. There's a good possibility that by the time he turned pro, he was beyond his prime. I definitely think that he was beyond his prime weight at the very least. He was a guy that campaigned at 106 and 108 throughout the entirety of his adult life, basically up until he turned pro when he decided to campaign at 112, where they have day before weigh-ins as opposed to same day weigh-ins. So he was fighting significantly bigger guys than he was used to as an amateur. But Bin managed to get a victory in his first pro bout by a third round TKO over Wanchai Nyangasa to win the WBC Asian Boxing Council silver flyweight title, the silver light flyweight title. And so that got him a ranking amongst the WBC as well as the WBA, where he is currently ranked number 12 under the WBA. Of course, the super champion for the WBA, Ryoichi Taguchi, is also a unified champion. He also has the IBF belt. But Carlos Canizales, the man who Liu Bin will be fighting against, is a guy that held Ryoichi Taguchi to a draw. In some controversial fashion, a lot of people felt like Canizales actually did enough to defeat Taguchi. The fight actually was held in Japan, giving maybe a little bit more argument to people feeling like Canizales got the raw end of the deal. He made himself a very, very elusive target and pretty much gave Taguchi one of his toughest fights. I'd say probably his toughest fight outside of the loss that Taguchi suffered to Naoya Inoue. But Liu Bin taking on Carlos Canizales, that's a big step up. That's a big step up in opposition. Not only from the standpoint from his first opponent, his first professional opponent, to his second one. His first one being basically a journeyman in Nyangasa, and his second one being an undefeated, junior champion, you might say, considering he doesn't have the full WBA belt, but arguably deserves to be the WBA champion in Canizales, but an undefeated one at that. And one who is a very good boxer, a good boxer-puncher, and one who I think looms as pretty damn dangerous, especially in comparison to Bin, who hasn't necessarily fought somebody of that level. Maybe somewhat as an amateur, but he didn't necessarily get far enough in the Olympics at the very least, or in the the World Amateur Championships more recently, say 2015. In order to fight somebody of that caliber, of a true elite level opponent, an elite level opponent who's gone 12 rounds, not just a few rounds in the amateurs, but the full 12-round, 3-minute distance of professional prize fighting, like Canizales has, and like Canizales has actually done against world level opposition, against the Robert Barreras and of course the aforementioned Ryoichi Taguchi. Should Bin manage to actually pull it off, and I keep calling him Bin. Bin is actually his first name. Liu is his family name. You know, they in China they usually do family before self, so it'll be Liu Bin. They'll pronounce him. They'll announce him in the ring as Liu Bin, but his personal name is actually Bin. Liu is his family name, so I guess I probably should be calling him Liu instead of Bin. And there's a few different ways of spelling it too. Sometimes it's Lu, sometimes it's Lv, and then sometimes it's Lyu. On BoxRec, incidentally, they have it listed as Bin first name, Liu last name, Bin then for his first name, and then Lu for his last name. If you guys want to go ahead and look him up, but he's going for the gusto very, very quickly here. You know, and if he does manage to pull it off, what I would definitely consider an upset, what I think most people that are in the know about who's ranked, who's the who's who of the lighter weight classes of just boxing in general, would consider it a major upset for basically a novice pro to go in there and upset the apple cart against, at the very least, a top 5 light flyweight. In Carlos Canizales, if not, you know, even a top 3 or top 2, considering the fact that he ran Taguchi so close, and Taguchi is kind of the standing guard of high tier light flyweights currently, being that he's a unified champion, defeated Milan Melindo and amongst others. But it's a good fight. Really impressive to see him. I guess going after it so early. I mean, ultimately, I definitely do consider Canizales to be the favorite in the bout. But I mean, I've seen his fights before. I've seen his fights as an amateur. The guy is extremely talented, very quick hands, very quick feet, and unlike Zhou Shiming, who is a bit of a slapper, this guy has power. He definitely has some good power. Nice, sharp, you know, snapping right hook. Not unlike Zhou Shiming, he's actually pretty tall on the tall side for the light flyweight division, 5'5", and has a pretty good reach, and you know, punches well in combination. He's a very, very good fighter. You know, if anything, I would have imagined that he would have, you know, taken a couple of fights, maybe a year or two to kind of get his feet wet before jumping into title contention. But I don't know. Who knows? Maybe there's a little bit of an issue going on between Manny Pacquiao and Bob Arum more than we see, and he's trying to maybe get one over on Mr. Arum by you know, upsetting Vasyl Lomachenko's, I guess, 3-fight world championship record that he shares, incidentally, with Saensak Muangsurin. Muangsurin, who actually was the initial fighter to win a world title in his 3rd fight, defeated Perico Fernandez to win the WBC light welterweight title back in 1975. Fought a few fighters of note: Gutsy Shimatsu, Saul Mambi, and Tommy Hearns. He actually fought Tommy Hearns on Hearns' way up the rankings. Of course, that was after Muangsurin had actually already been dethroned of his title, however. But yeah, if Liu Bin manages to upset the odds and actually defeat Canizales, then it looks like both Muangsurin and Vasyl Lomachenko's record of becoming a world champion in 3 title fights, or in 3 professional fights, excuse me, it looks like that's going bye-bye. But yeah, it's an interesting fight, intriguing fight. You know, like I said, Carlos Canizales is a very quick fighter, elusive fighter. He gave Taguchi, who's normally a very good high-level pressure fighter with a very high work rate, gave him a lot of trouble being able to kind of nail him down, pin him down, and land on him consistently. And he also, you know, good in and out movement from him. It's going to be a very, very good bout, I think. And what's really turning out to be a really good card, because you know, Mohamed Wasim is going to be taking on Murti Talane for the vacant IBF Flyweight Championship. You know, this is going to be only Wasim's 9th fight, so he's another guy that's going after it with a very, very few number of professional fights. You know, just feeling like, hey, if I'm ready, I'm ready, and if I'm not, I'm not. Going after it against a former titleist, incidentally, Talane, who had previously held the IBF Flyweight Championship and also held the IBO. He vacated the IBF to get the IBO, funny enough. But I think that's going to do it for this one, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.